All right. I can get this in here. Pretty sure my my stand here is gonna break. This phone is so much bigger than my last phone. I almost break it every time I'm trying to put it in there. So, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you, Jared. And just taking a moment, letting everyone drop in. I think I'm starting a little bit sooner than I said I was on Instagram, so I'm just going to allow those that are joining from Instagram and Facebook to drop in if they're able, and those that are dropping in from my group. And for anyone that's able, and for, of course, anyone that's watching this on the replay, because I know I usually have quite a few dropping in on the replay. We're going to be speaking into and reflecting some points of mastery first, and then we will go into the activation. So just depending on how or the intention of those tuning in, just letting everyone know what is being provided. So thank you for joining. If this is your first time joining here, my name is eoacci, and I'm going to be reflecting and channeling some insight in relation to our path, our choices, and the choices that we make in relation to what everyone knows of as 3D, and also in relation to the path of ascension. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to take a moment. And I'm just going to invite everyone that's here, and especially those that are planning on staying here for a few moments, just to take a deep breath and to assist in anchoring the energy. Thank you. So for those that are wanting to stay and to receive, I stated we're going to be speaking about our pathways, our choices. Now, this is something that if you've joined my lives before, you're going to hear me speaking into a lot, because choice and perception is everything. It is everything. Yes, you could say that. I am a spiritual mentor. And everything in our reality, everything that we perceive is an illusion until we perceive differently. It's very interesting because even as you are hearing and even as you are receiving right now, you have thoughts, you have emotions, you have a lot of things that are flowing through you. What are you aware of? That's the key. We have aspects of self that show up all the time that we're not aware of. And there's versions of us that show up and perceive through different lens of self. And this is what we would call ego. We have different lenses. Our ego is what sees the world. Our ego is what perceives. And until we begin a path of embodiment, our ego is what separates us from the world and others. It is the fragment of the soul that exists through the ego. Now, the ego is also a divine blessing. It is to be celebrated, because the ego is also our personality. We have soul personality, and then we have soul, and then we have identities, right? These personality, these identities that are connected to ego. Our soul personality carries a tone throughout all dimensions and all densities. And yet, we normally, especially in this realm, because of our choices, we don't really know what that tone or what our personality of our soul is. When others are looking in on us from other realms, what they are seeing is color. What they are feeling is vibration. So they know us by our tone. They know us by our color, our hue, because our aura gives off different colors. Sometimes that aura is very muddled. It's weighed down. Maybe there's holes in the aura where your aura is leaking, and you're not retaining as much light. Um, but everything is perception and everything is choice. And so even as your aura and even as your existence is giving off this vibrancy of color, whatever those colors are, you are emitting a tone and a vibration even right now based on what you believe and based on what you perceive. So if you believe and you perceive that things are not interesting, if you believe that everything in life is boring and you choose to hold that perception, then therefore life will be boring. If And this is what tends to happen to us as humans, especially even for those that begin the spiritual path. um we tend to get distracted by what I call the shiny things, by all the things that are magical. We want someone else to fix our problems. We want an easy way to solve problems. We want something to make our life better. We are not willing to take responsibility for where we have ended up in our lives. And this is because we have yet to really work through, or shall I say, practice, practice perception, practice awareness, practice embodiment. We are so consumed by distractions. And just love distractions. And when we don't have enough distractions, then we're not happy. Just like even right now, people will tune into this live, and after a few seconds, they will go on to the next. They want the next best thing. Everyone wants the next best thing. They want instant gratification. And then if they don't have it, then life becomes boring because they're so used to being fed energies that heighten the senses, which actually dulls the senses. Um, that's beautiful, Jared. So I would also invite the perception in, instead of I deal with a huge amount of vibration and color, allowing the perception of I have the blessing of experiencing a huge amount of vibration and color. Because again, that is also a choice. How we perceive, just that right there, just shifting of perception, shifting of words offers a different paradigm. It offers a different experience. And the existence of our beingness, we are usually not happy with that. And why is that? Happy with our existence? Why is it that we can't just simply be and exist from a state of happiness and joy and prosperity? It's because we're wanting something different all the time. That's the human condition of suffering, is wanting something more, wanting something different, wanting something better. And therefore, if I don't have it, then I'm not happy. And everything that we experience becomes dependent upon having the next thing and the next thing. And interestingly enough, every single one of those things is an illusion. It's outside of you. Everything that is outside of you is an illusion. There is nothing outside of you. There's nothing that exists that is what we would say absolute truth. Now, everything that you believe and everything that you perceive is truth because you believe it, because you perceive it, therefore you experience it. That's truth. But there's nothing that's absolute because everything is always changing. But because we perceive change as something that we need to control, I need to control the change. I want it to change this way. I want it to change this way. If I have this, then I'll be happy. If I have more money, then I'll be happy. If I have the right partner, then I'll be happy. If I have a different house, if I have a different car, if I have this, I'll be happy. But then what happens when you get bored of that? Then you're no longer happy. And there's this, the honeymoon phase with everything. And therefore, our existence becomes dependent upon something else. Therefore, as humans, our suffering is codependency. This is why even in the spiritual path of manifestation, manifesting wealth is still suffering. It doesn't mean that as one that is open and understanding of attraction and manifestation, it doesn't mean that having more cannot be of an assistance. Absolutely. But then what if that more is taken? What if the system of monetary evolution is destroyed? Which, of course, it's undergoing that right now. So when we no longer have the money, when our value and our worth, which is codependent on money, it's codependent on partners, it's codependent on our environment, and your self-worth depreciates, right? As you're speaking into it, holds you back. It holds you back because the question is, where do you place your worth? Where do you place your worth? This is a question I actually asked in my group space. Where do you place your worth? And if you find that the people, that the places, that the things are more worth your time, are more worth your energy, are more worth your experience, then your self-worth will always depreciate based on what you have, not what you are. The evolution of the soul, we are right now as humans, there are some that have not even entered their probationary period of ascension or mastery. But those that are beginning to awaken have an opportunity to go into what is known as a probationary period. And this probationary period, I'm actually feeling it. I'm actually feeling it as applying to those that are undergoing awakening. Because as you begin to awaken that there is something more, right? As you begin to become aware that there is something more than just what you have been conditioned to believe, that you can choose differently, you can feel differently, you can experience differently. Even the conditions that you perceive as being placed upon you are also limiting you because you're not taking responsibility for those conditions. If you take responsibility and you choose differently, if you choose to perceive everything as a blessing instead of a limitation, then you can come into a state of internal peace and exist, and just simply exist. Then there is nothing that you are codependent on. But everyone wants the next best thing. Even, and this happens a lot of time in spiritual communities and spirituality too, is wanting the next activation, wanting to hear from, and you guys hear me speak about this, wanting to hear from the next ascended master, wanting to hear from the next collective group of beings. And therefore, if that doesn't appear for a while, they're going to move on to the next. It's, we seem to move as a hive mind of what is the next best thing. Now, the evolution of the soul comes from the acceptance of the personalities, the ability to be in acceptance. Unconditional acceptance is what I term it, if you will. Not unconditional love. No, because everyone has a belief around what love is. Everyone has a belief of what love is and how love looks and how love feels. Love is a chemical reaction. It's a hormonal reaction in the body. It's actually attraction, not love. But even when we remove the attraction, the definition of love is still based on the individual. But unconditional acceptance, now that we can feel, we can understand. And there's also dimensionality to unconditional acceptance. I can accept that something, I can believe and accept something as being fearful. I could accept that if I wanted to. I could also accept that it's a blessing. So unconditional acceptance is multidimensional in its ability to evolve, in its ability to be embodied. And this is the evolution of the soul. And the evolution of the soul is the journey of light. It is the journey of the soul that once going from the initiation period. Once we begin our initiations, we really begin working on the embodiment of the soul. We really, and actually, this happens in the probationary period a little bit as well. But probationary period is granted, if you will, it's bestowed for those who are choosing to accept the path, not for the sake of appearances and not for the sake of making money. And for those of you that receive these transmissions that are in a place of offering your light, yes, I offer spaces. I have my group space and I have 101s, and those are monetary investments. Now, that is simply for the sake of honoring the exchange of energy. I also offer services here for free, and anyone and everyone can come and receive them. The balance, the contract, the exchange of energy is different. For those that are more personal, where the energy is coming from a state of receiving through me in a more heightened way, it's fulfilling a soul contract, then those are going to require some balancing of energies. The investment of money is a person's way of showing up and investing, declaring and accepting their contract, because I could offer the same thing that I offer in that group space and what I offer in those one-on-ones for free. But if a soul is not truly invested energetically in receiving themselves, then they will not get the message, if you will. It will not come inward. There will be a consistent projection pushing it away, which means all the layers of the ego, the judgment, and everything that is layered there that is trying to identify the message will be the one receiving instead of the soul. So on this pathway, for those that are offering, for those that provide services, if during your probationary period, we're all tested to see how will we choose to harness those energies, those currents, such as money. How will we choose to honor the currency? And if we're choosing to use it for self-fulfillment, if we're choosing to use it so that we can be seen in a certain way, and this is for anyone or anything, not just anyone offering a spiritual offering or like a healing modality. It's not just for that, but your use of the currency of money is also a reflection of your personality. And the one thing that I began reflecting when I began shifting out of the currency of fear and into the currency of love was an understanding that I never need more than what I have. Whatever I have is exactly what I need. And in relation to the currency of money, whatever I have is exactly what I need. If I need more, then I have a fear that I don't have enough, and therefore I lack something. Now, if I'm also just seeking wealth and I'm just seeking money, then I am consumed with the focus of that, even from a space of manifestation. Many people feel that they need that manifestation, or they need that spiritual wealth, or they need that. And because that determines their viability as a healer, that determines their viability as a spiritual mentor, it determines their viability as someone that stands in that position. However, your viability of whatever you are is just wholly dependent on your vibration. And so when our time and our energy is consumed with being perceived by others in a certain way, by looking a certain way, right? Even here, I don't show up to look a certain way. I don't dress a certain way. I don't, everything is about presence. It's about vibration. Those that are meant to receive will remain and they will receive. Those that are meant to receive will show up and will receive. I understand that the majority of our collective does not find value in these messages, and that's okay. The value, the self-worth is, how do you honor your state of being? If there is any part of you that shows up that chooses to believe in a way that depreciates your feeling, then you have an opportunity to shift your perception. You have an opportunity to shift in every single moment. You can choose to believe differently. You can choose to perceive differently. You can choose to feel differently. And you can also choose to bring that self-worth and that self-value into the self. Because our pathway of ascension, or our pathway of, actually just our pathway of graduation, I'm not going to say ascension. Ascension is a slightly different tone. than that of mastering this realm and graduating. Although right now they are going hand in hand. The mastery of the physical. And actually, no, I'm actually hearing that actually I'm hearing that the pathway of ascension is a higher progression of the pathway of mastery in this realm right now. So they are hand in hand. They are hand in hand. There is a slightly the nuance of tone is slightly different, but they do go hand in hand. Now, because everything is tone and everything is vibration and everything is color and everything is light, your tone, your vibration, your color changes depending on what you choose and what you believe. You're a kaleidoscope of color in any moment, but a lot of times that's muddled down with your belief. Your belief of something can create a very, very muddled, darkened color, especially if there's a lot of fear, a lot of guilt, a lot of self-doubt. If there's a lot of what you declared as depreciating, shall we say, negative in tone, negative in vibration. Those are very dense, very heavy energies. And it is also what locks the physical body into its position, and it locks the soul into its rotation in this realm. It's why we have had life and death cycle, because the only way that the soul could come back and reclaim itself from this realm is to be reincarnated. And that still doesn't necessarily mean that the soul will be reclaimed. This is why many people have many incarnations here. You don't have to come back here, but you're going to choose to come back here. But part of your soul still remains here. It's fragmented. It is held captive through something that you, through your choices, through your karma, have not embodied. You never learned your lesson. You chose to remain stuck in a perception that kept you trapped here. And so as we're speaking into just the self-worth, fear, judgment, shame, guilt, these are all anchors of the soul through separation that keep the soul here. Now, because each of those are multidimensional, most people think that they're not in one of those lower density, lower dimensional parallel viewpoints or experiences. But they're so multidimensional, and that most people don't see that. They can't see that. The ego is linear. It only leads you into parallel lives. And so therefore, if you remain stuck in one of your parallel, like maybe you have a perception. This is a big one right now for the collective. It's been really showing in my group space. It's what, for those of you that are religious that receive this, that still believe in sins, the one of the greatest sins, or one of the greatest traps of karma is lust, attraction, attachment. And because of this, the soul becomes all consumed in the physical experience of sex, of lust, of attraction. Maybe not even sex, the fantasy world that is created by desire. And therefore, the yearning, the lusting, and the illusion that is created around it, a portion of you will remain stuck there. And this will be a portion of your own lesson group that is there for you to cycle out of. And many people get trapped in those. They get trapped in the yearning, they get trapped in the lusting, or it's a cycle of lack. I don't know, I don't have, I'm not worthy. That's a cycle of lesson group, keeping the soul trapped, keeping the self trapped. Now, why is this important in relation to ascension? Well, ascending, many people have a belief of a perception of what higher density, higher dimensionality means. I can feel in the collective where the belief is around, I'm going somewhere that's up there. I'm going somewhere that's higher. I'm going somewhere that's not here, going somewhere else, right? Or if I have a connection to a higher dimensional being, that somehow that part of me can come here. Density and dimensionality exist as matter or no matter, if you will. And that's the density. Dimensionality is depth of perception. That's dimensional. The reason why dimensionality appears in 3D is because many people get very trapped in the density of physicality, and therefore mind, body, soul. That's your density dimensionality for 3D. And many get stuck in one dimension or the other. They'll get stuck in the physical dimensionality, they'll get stuck in the mental, they get stuck in the emotional, and they will majority cycle in that. So therefore, that's a part of the karma, the lesson group that's not being learned, is how to master that, cycle out of that, cycle into a space of no time, and therefore cycle out of lower density, lower dimensionality, gaining depth of perception, which is higher dimensionality. Higher dimensionality is also higher in density, which means the matter, the material world is different. It's not as dense. So therefore, we must be able to not only move in and out of matter, or in and out of time, in and out of density, we must be able to do it with a depth of perception. So if we are still, right now, this probationary phase is our acclimation phase. And for many people, there is the rotation that's happening in illusion because they're captivated by the shiny things, as I call it. They're captivated by the teachings. They're captivated by the images. They're captivated by the beliefs. Therefore, they are captivated by the illusion because anything that they believe in relation to higher density, higher dimensionality, in relation to the beings, is happening outside of them. It's happening through a lens of ego. Their perception is filtering through a lens of ego that they have yet to embody. And even the psychic senses, as they come online, we are tested as to how we will perceive and how we will receive. And the ability to choose from a space that heightens our density, which means we're no longer stuck in our life and death cycles. Our life reviews actually have an opportunity to happen right now. This is what happens in group space. There is a mirror through me that gives a reflection as they reflect through themselves what's here now. We're actually reviewing the karma, the post-life review, the life review of the soul. It happens right now, but it can only happen if you're choosing differently. It can only happen if you're choosing to perceive differently. It can only happen if you're choosing upon each of those to embody the lens of ego that was keeping you separated from yourself. Because think about it, even what you're hearing and receiving right now, who is perceiving it? Who is receiving it? Who is hearing it? You'll say, well, I am. There's also a false I. There's a false I am that many people are not aware of. They proclaim their I am very proudly, but there is a false I am that many people are not aware of. They're not aware of their false I because their false I has a belief. It has a projected truth. It has an illusion that is out here that it steps into consistently. That is the false I. The I am that believes this. The I am that believes that. The I am that believes this. That is my false I. My false I. Now you can hear that. I'm also hearing how many people can hear that in many different ways. It as my false I, my false seeing, my false I, my false physical existence, my false I, my physical seeing, my physical being, my intuitive seeing, my intuitive being. But that is a false I. So you all have heard me speak into this as well as from the psychic senses, the clairs as they're heightened. If we're not embodying our ego, then we have an egoic self that is out here perceiving through the lens and perceiving through the heightened clairs, and therefore projecting a belief of what is seen, the false I. If an angel or a dragon came here right now, if an angel came here right now, how would you, what would you be seeing? Who would be seeing it? What version of you would be viewing it? Because someone has to see that being. Someone has to perceive it, or else it doesn't exist, right? That's how we identify, or what we believe existence is what we see. But then also, who's seeing it? Who's perceiving it? One of the very interesting things about angels is that when cosmic beings have presented themselves, and because they have an appearance that is very beautiful, at what we would declare as being very beautiful, because many have taken that word angel, and in Latin it just means messenger. So a messenger from the stars, a messenger from a different realm that comes in, that is viewed as being beautiful, was identified as an angel. And so then we take this etheric being and we have created an entire concept of what we believe an angel is. When a lot of times it was just our cosmic brethren, our neighbors, if you will, that were delivering messages of preparation. Pleiades, for instance. Pleiades has had a very long connection with this planet. And because of their appearance, they have been labeled as angels. Where we get many of our stories of angels actually comes from the Pleiades. And also too, it's where we have these identifications of a lot of the ascended masters and Isis. A lot of these that we have these concepts and ideals around, that we've kept them entrapped. The importance of that visitation was not the image of the being, it was the vibration, it was the tone, it was the message. Because a lot of these beings come in form so that we'll feel comfortable. They come in a way that is easy to communicate. A lot of them don't have to. They don't have to come in form, but they do because it's more comfortable for humans to receive in that way, especially those that are still holding fear around the way certain things look. So if another being were to come in, the version of you that sees and communicates with that image is going to determine how you receive anything else. And this is also another thing that is, shall we say, being tested right now, is our lines of communication. How do we perceive the communication from these from our cosmic neighbors, and how do we perceive the messages? Like, what's it filtering through? How are we choosing to receive it? Because anyone that has an open channel can receive a psychic communication. But because the psychic senses are directly connected to the brain, that's how we see. We're not actually seeing. It's not the third eye that's seeing the images, by the way. It's just simply an electromagnetic current that's being projected from the brain, and it's a heightened sensation of the brain, and it projects the image out here instead of and so we see it from in here, kind of, but it's actually projected out there. So the internal all-seeing eye, the eternal all-seeing eye, doesn't see projected images out there. The third eye is an internal viewing of self, not projected images. So the path of probation is a path of seeing how we're going to perceive and how we're going to choose. And if all of the things that we perceive are being used to be seen in a way that makes us more popular, that gets us more numbers on social media, that brings in a lot more money, that gives us, even if we're not making money, even if we're in a free group, but there's a lot of people and we have created it, or maybe there's only 5 people, it doesn't matter, but we are seen as a powerful knower. We know a lot of things, we have a lot of knowledge, and we are a leader, and in that leadership position, we are seen as someone that is powerful. And therefore we're choosing to harness the power of knowledge in a way that makes us appear to be something. We'll never leave the probationary period if we do not realize that aspect of our ego. It is. The probationary period is an opportunity for responsible choice to go into initiation. And the the one thing about shifting out of, and the one thing I've received is going into the initiation pathway. You must be at a certain vibration of embodiment. You must be at a certain tone, meaning you are those that are also there assisting us from other densities, other dimensionalities that are overseeing and assisting those in the unseen that are there simply as consciousness, as frameworks of consciousness that are in service to source. They are pure service source operatives, and they are harnessing the frequency and assisting those of us that are on a pathway of mastery. Mastery is a soul journey. It's pure, meaning it's not invested continuously in its ego. It's invested continuously in embodying the ego and understanding the self through the embodiment of ego, not the attainment of knowledge, not the attainment of data, and not the attainment and witness of personality and persona. That is the Maya, to be caught in the illusion and the image of self and remaining trapped there. And therefore, if there is no other self that you're choosing to exchange with that can provide a mirror, that can provide a reflection of your ego, if you're not choosing to exchange with one that holds a higher path of mastery, then you're not going to be able to see everything. And I don't say that negatively. It's just that's the path. That's the truth. If there is one that is living, for me, this is my group space. Everything that I speak here, I live it. It is a tone. It's a vibration. It's my existence. I'm not just speaking from a book that I've read. This is my channel. It's my embodiment. It's me. And so everything that I express is the wisdom of my existence. It is my truth because I live it. Anything that is our truth is because we live it. Even if we believe it, even if we have believed it through ego, we are still living it, and that's still our truth, and it is divine. Now, we have to also be aware of imposter syndrome, where this is another part of that phase of where we're being tested to see how will we take all of this awakened information and how will we harness it? Because ascension happens through awareness. It happens through the depth of perception. Ascension coupled with the lower density matter so that we can actually move out of the dense form that we're in into a lighter form. We must be able to move. And if our awareness in any way is trapped in a linear perception, it's focused, it's absorbed in some belief, then we remain stuck there. And so therefore and this is something that you guys have heard me speak into before, and I say it again because many times it is received and many people are just hearing the words. They're not receiving in a depth of understanding. So please, please, please take an opportunity to receive this from a space of deepening the understanding of self, not just receiving the words so that you can resonate or so that you can agree with something. That's also imposter syndrome right there. If you're just trying to agree, if you're just trying to resonate, if you're just trying to find something that's being said that you can resonate with, and then take that and be like, oh my goodness, this was so resonant. Let me take these words and let me share it. Let me take what was said and let me share it and let me express it from a space of, I know this, then therefore we are imposters, right? We are imposters. And so it's something that we're going to be consistently faced with. How do we choose to take this? And how do we choose to embody it? How do we choose to perceive it? Now, our probationary period, that's the process. When we begin to move into spiritual wisdom, Spiritual wisdom is from a space of embodying the different identities and personalities. Then we go into initiation. Initiation can only happen once the probationary phase has been fulfilled to a certain degree, where we have received the guidance and the mirror and the embodiment, and we are reached a place of being able to move from there. And because everything is frequency and everything is tone and everything is vibration, many people have this, they know that we're ascending as a planet, and they know that we're receiving currents of light, and they know, and there's this perception and awareness that it's almost too boring to practice what is being declared right here. It's too boring. I want the magical. I don't want the mundane. I want to know the next, where's the next set of powerful words going to come from? Where's the next set of powerful information? Where's the next set of power that I can show I know? Right? That's where that ego likes to play, is in what it knows. What it knows of this realm, what it knows of that realm, what it knows of these laws. Let me take the laws of the universe and pass them on to you for this price. Or even if it's a free space, but you're controlling and you want everyone to see what you know, then you're controlling the current. This is how we get to see where we are energetically. The sun is pulling this earth. The sun is guiding this earth. The core of this earth, the core of the sun, they are ascending together. And as a collective, we have an opportunity to harness the magnetic electrical currents, but the polarities are different. So, what does this mean? It means that the ability to embody the grids, the ability to acclimate, and the ability to shift in dimensionality and density for the preparation and for the ascension comes from the depth of perception. The depth of perception allows the activated molecules to be consistently moving in the polarities that provide the continual ascended shift out of lower density, lower dimensionality, because the presence of awareness is always here now. There is nothing that is trapping you on a molecular level, and there is nothing that is keeping you trapped. And if you have a perception of self that comes in that feels like, is that all? What I want more. Or also too, I know a lot of people tend to receive this while they're doing other things. They're like, oh yeah, I was listening to this while I was doing this, or this, which means what you're doing is you're just listening to words. You're not being in a state of presence of embodiment. It means you're using it as a background noise. It means you feel like you need to multitask, and that because you need to be busy doing other things, because the only way that you can be actively participating in your existence is to be busy. But your active participation is your perception, it's your awareness, and it's the depth of your perception. It's the depth of your awareness. When you are fully present in the now, and the depth of perception is perceiving itself in the multitudes of ways that it exists in the now, that is your multidimensionality. But many people don't want that, because that's not very magical. I want the magical existence of myself as this being, and of as this being, and of as this being. We are here to master the physical, my dears. And this is a part of our pathway of not only graduation, but also ascension, is we must master the physical. If it is the attainment of anything that holds greater value, whether it's the attainment of physical touch, whether it's the attainment of knowledge, of data, whether it's the attainment of money, whatever the attainment is, the attainment of doing things, of being busy, of being distracted, whatever it is, if that holds a greater value than the presence of now, then we will remain somehow fragmented and separate from ourselves. The messages that come in from the cosmic beings that speak in terms of the pathway to ascension is love. Many people actually, things are spoken in a way that's very intentional through the pure channels. I will say through the clear channels. The messages that are received come in a way to see how people will perceive them. Many have a perception of what love is, and they'll actually get caught and stuck in the perception of what they believe love and light is, instead of the evolution internally of the perception of self in relation to that belief. So many people will go out there and they will be spreading their belief. They will be spreading the love and light of the belief system, not the tone. The tone is not something that you have to give people, and we know, everyone, I believe, does know and have a recognition that everything is tone and vibration. So if that's the truth, then that it's not about what you give in the words and the modalities, it's about what you exist as. But if you don't even know how you exist right now, then how can you offer anything in truth and clarity? No, not just in truth and clarity. Because if you're, regardless of what you believe, if you're living what you believe, it is your truth. There's nothing that is not true. But many people have these perceptions, these beliefs of certain spiritual aspects that are so absolute for them that they're so rigid and absolute, but they're really not absolute. They're just illusion. Spirit, source, it's consciousness. Spirit is the fabric, if you will. It is the essence. Consciousness is the creator. Spirit is the essence of creation. And so we tend to get caught up in the image of instead of the existence of. And as you are even viewing what you believe something is, who is viewing it? Who is believing it? What version of you is believing it? How do you choose to perceive what you believe? What emotions are connected? All to play, all of it is filtering in. So just taking a moment now as we prepare to head into the activation to be in a moment of awareness. One of the things that I hear from a few of those that are in my group space, that one of the things that's been a part of this process is they want to move through this stage of embodiment, but there's a fear of, I know that if I come to you, you're going to feel and you're going to see. Of course, anyone that's in my group space, I see and feel everything that is connected to them, but I can only reflect it upon their own expression. I'm not going to just point it out. They must be openly reflecting or expressing themselves for that mirror to come and return. But there's also this fear of being seen and received for who you really are. Because it's easy, especially with social media and everything today and all the groups and everything that we join, it's very easy to be seen in the way that we want people to see us. We can show up on social media as the bully. We can show up on social media as the nice person. We can show up as love and light. We can present all the knowledge. We can have all the different everything up there to show. But what's underneath that, right? Even the person that presents as a bully and as a trying to distract has a lot of fear. A lot of times people don't want to be seen for who they really are, because this means that they have to they're being guided to see themselves. Many people don't want to see themselves. They just want to see what they want to see, not all that is there to see. And so when they come into the presence of a mirror, for me, anyone that comes into the presence of me in that reflection, there's always going to be especially at the beginning, there's a tinge of fear of like, ooh, or resistance. There's resistance that comes up, that shows. And why is that? Because what is being asked through me is to simply be transparent in your truth. And many people still find that as being too mundane, not worth investing, not worth experiencing. But then let's look at the bigger picture. Then what are you investing in? What is your self-worth connected to? What is valuable? If not knowing yourself is not valuable enough, then what is so valuable? If not mastering this realm, if that is just like, yeah, I want that. Do you just want the image of that? You just want to claim that? Or do you really want that? Because if you really want to master this realm, there is a choice that is made internally and agreed upon, and that contract becomes fulfilled through every moment that you show up in presence of awareness, in acceptance of the mirror, and the ability to accept in the mundane that that is where the beauty is. Um, Yeah, resistance, yes, absolutely. It's taking responsibility for self, and a lot of times we don't wanna take responsibility of self, we wanna distract from responsibility of self. We want to be seen as something that is, all-knowing, that has all the information, something that's fun, that's this, right? We want to be seen, and this up especially on social media, as they show up as an identity, but that identity is an illusion. And so many people will be remain trapped in Maya. This is why the Mayan calendar ended when it did, is because the entrapment of time, the the entrapment of this density and dimensionality in terms of its overlay, in terms of its veil, was ending in 2012. Once the veil of time was lifting. Now, of course, in the minds of many, just because they know that, it doesn't mean that they're perceiving beyond that. Pretty many, um, most people know about the Mayan calendar, that that was the end of time. Many people perceived it as some form of end of the world, and technically, it is the end of the world in the way that we perceive it, if we choose to shift out of it. But if not, many people are still going to remain in the illusion because they are so addicted and attached to their physical reality, their physical time, which is not real. There is no time. There's only space. There is only the perception and the depth of perception. That's space, not space. Space is depth of perception. Now, of course, we do have space, physical, but that's also physical. What I'm talking about is the depth of the unseen, the depth of the unseen. And the depth of the unseen is also the creator of the seen. And so, you know, this isn't as alluring to most because it doesn't have words of power. It doesn't have the pull of the Arcturian, Palladian, which of course, those are very much present through everything that I speak right here, right now. Just because I don't put them and place them there doesn't mean that there is no existence and co-creation through frequency. Very much so. Those star systems are expressing through the frequency of those that channel openly, clearly as ones that are embodying. Which means harnessing the spiritual wisdom of universe, harnessing the spiritual wisdom of that which is the soul, that is not bound by linear perception and illusion. So if we choose to harness, here's the biggest thing I would like to ask, because I do know there are those that tune in here that are very, very that have attachments to specific beliefs, specific modalities. Are you willing to accept that a lot of what you are practicing is based on a belief that you have adapted yourself to, and therefore you are perceiving through that lens of belief? Therefore, you are creating an illusion. This means even those this the practice, shall we say, the practice, the practice of ascension, the practice of initiation is a bestowal based on frequency. There are those that will claim it for the sake of recognition, but they will never make it past the probationary phase. They will never make it through initiation. Initiation is the release of the physical attachments, the physical devotion, the physical need, the having the physical, and the physical represents this, and the physical represents that, and the physical is where the representation is at, but the physical is the illusion. The physical isn't, especially the physical that we see with our physical eyes that are still not acclimated to a higher depth of perception. So it's an ability to see the self truly through the depth of perception. And that's a big one, because this also means that the way, even this has been a big one for those that I've worked with, is the seeing of images. Because there's also that, well, I know they're dragons, right? I've seen the dragons, I've seen the angels, I've seen them. So who is seeing them? Who is seeing the image? That is always the question. Who is seeing it? Which lens is viewing the image? Who is perceiving? And so if we're not aware of who is perceiving, then we're not aware of our own identity of self. And we simply just roll with the punches, if you will. We just roll with the image. And many people have become consumed by this, because then they belong, as I've stated, they belong. They belong to the dragons, they belong to the belief, they belong to the image, they belong to the group. And I want to take just a moment. Connecting into the currents of spirit, connecting to the creation of source, connecting into the electric magnetic currents of other star systems, and those that are here through the field of consciousness as a frequency of service. As a part of our mastery, the cycling out of the lesson groups, the cycling into higher contracts. Are the images of perception necessary? No. We have forgotten. We have forgotten the big picture. We have forgotten the bigger picture. That everything is simply frequency. And because this is a physical density realm, with heightened senses, which is a part of our probationary period, where our senses are opened and heightened to see how we will harness what we perceive. There is no message, there is nothing in the physical that is placed upon us. There is no, everyone looks for the magic in the physical. But even our physical is limited by our perception. So this means that one person can place a belief upon a tree and make the tree be something other than what the creation of the tree is. Now, do we have and have we had supporting frequencies in different elemental races? Yes. And these were simply there to support those creation elements. Many will pick up on those frequencies of elementals, but they will project what they believe they mean. Same with teachings. Hermetic laws, emerald tablets, any of these teachings are in the eye of the beholder. So many will receive the teachings in place, a projected belief upon the teaching, and therefore pass it from that space. Many are taking in the data, taking in the knowledge, and then projecting their ego in return. The path of probation is about getting to know the projections, getting to know the identities, and embodying. Once we reach a certain vibration of embodiment, then we will move into initiations of consciousness. And initiations of consciousness is also tone. So initiations of tone. This is something in relation, my group space. I created the group space as an evolution into initiations of consciousness. Many of you have heard me speak about that publicly. Initiations of consciousness. Those are for the adept or for the disciples, if you will. Now, please do not allow that word to hold you captive on a belief. It just simply means those that are committed energetically to that state of being. Therefore, they will receive through an embodied guide. They will receive through an embodied mirror. And there will be an availability, a continuous availability for not only graduation and ascension, but of course there is the path of mastery. Look at your belief. The belief that you hold in relation to the planet. If you believe some locations hold a greater point of magic, yes, there are and have been access points in the grid system which provided, shall we say, portals, because the previous grid system, the old Earth grid system, or actually the new Earth grid system is the system that's at play, but there's a higher grid system of ascension, and that's the overlay. The new Earth is the Earth that is here now through the higher sensation of probation. It is not what many believe it to be as the new ascended Earth. The new Earth is simply the in-between, the fourth density, fourth dimension. That's new Earth. That is new Earth. That is the frequencies. It is new simply because it is new to this planet. And so therefore we have received the availability of the fourth density, fourth dimension grid system frequencies. But it is not the fifth density, fifth dimension grid system. Those are overlays that are not yet attainable to those that are here because we have yet to move into no time. The no time is available through the depth of perception, the embodiment of mind, body, soul, and the initiations through consciousness, the different tones of perception, the different depths of dimensionality. Higher dimensionality is not it is not what many perceive. And many don't want to hear that. Many are wanting it to be, I am in a higher state. I am in this heaven, but what is the perceived heaven, and who is perceiving the heaven, and what is being initiated to create the heaven? What changes are taking place to provide the heaven on earth? Is there really a change? Or is there just a set of beliefs that is keeping the self trapped in illusion, which keeps the self comfortable in its illusion? Therefore, it remains, and it does not ascend, because nothing changes. Ascension happens once again through density. Your density can only shift upon the depth of perception. The depth of perception creates the molecular composition for the ascended body. This was what everyone knows of as the higher self. When the higher self is embodied, the higher self is the depth of perception, and it is internal. It is not external. Everything that is external is embodied. All projections, all illusions, everything is embodied. And it means that the self is no longer a servant to the illusion or to the belief. When the self is a servant to the belief, a self remains trapped in the illusion. And this is happening, of course, as we know to many. This is where we receive the trap of fourth density, fourth dimension. However, true fourth density, fourth dimension is not a trap, not for those that are holding depth of perception, because they will move through fourth density, fourth dimension with ease, and it will be easeful, very easeful. Many of us have already begun this. The probationary period of embodiment, of embodied guides, allowed for the passing forth, passing on the available process of embodied perception. This is where we guide from embodied guidance. The embodied guidance system is a set of tones, a set of frequencies based in the depth of perception. What you're perceiving right now is a direct reflection of where you exist. Where you exist in relation to the now, where you exist in relation to time, where you exist in relation to your physical, where you exist in relation to your mental, where you exist in relation to your emotional. And many are trapped in one of those dimensionalities over the other. They have a greater composite of mental. They have a greater composite of emotional. They have a greater composite of physical, because the majority of their focus is in those parallel existences, in those parallel dimensionalities, which means there is no embodiment. The path of the embodied mirror, and what we speak here, what is provided through my group space, what is provided is the opportunity to begin to move the perception inward and begin the process of ascension. And yes, there are incoming currents that are assisting through the sun to prepare the body, to prepare the density, to prepare, and everything is working and activating on a DNA level. It is shaking things up. It is asking and nudging. It is asking and nudging for there to be a change. This is why everything comes to the surface. But the question before you is there really change? Not just a change because you believe something differently. That does provide some sort of change. There is a change in a paradigm, if you will. The more that you focus a belief into something, your paradigm will be that existence. But the question here is that paradigm, of course, an illusion? And the answer is yes. This means that just because you hold the knowledge, just because you hold the data, just because you have all the books and all the information and all the words, does not mean you hold the gateway of ascension. That is tone, it is vibration. Spiritual maturity, spiritual wisdom as a part of the initiate is gained through the ability to have passed all prior choice points, to have ascended through its perception, to have gained the depth of awareness, to come out of the probationary phase into the initiate phase. And that is the pathway of continual ascended mastery. And it also allows access to the spiritual universal wisdom, the perception of depth, the depth of perception. It is a tone, it is a frequency, it is a magnetic current. It is the magnetic electrical of your sun star, of the sun star in existence right now as it moves in and out of. It is what is taking place right here, right now, through the channel, through the expression. It is what we are speaking, what I am speaking right now. It is the magnetic electric, and this is the embodiment of the grid system. The grid system is a set of currents that are directly co-creative and adaptable to the depth of perception. It only works in its polarity through the depth of perception and the embodiment of the personalities. The initiate only has access to those contracts of higher consciousness once they have passed the probationary phase. Now, this means for many, there are many things that must shift, many perceptions that must shift, that many are not yet prepared to let go of. The perception that they have of the earth, the perception that they have of their guides, the perceptions that they have of the solar system, the perceptions that they have of other cosmic realms, the perceptions, the beliefs that they holds them captive because they are not willing to see differently. So what image is appearing in the perception that is being seen by those that are channeling in the psychic? Who's seeing it? Who's viewing it? And are you receiving it because you believe? Or are you receiving it because you can feel? The one thing that I have come across from those that I work with, those that I connect with, that many come into the connection of this pathway of mastery with me have said, they don't feel. Many of them don't feel. They see things and they know things, but there's no feeling. Or maybe they can feel, but also the representation of feeling is based on an enhancement of belief. When they are captivated by words, then they have an enhancement of feeling. So there's this going into and receiving all these different things from all these different places and all these different activations, but who is receiving? That is the question. Let us move now into a deepening of activation. What is received here is felt. That is certain. You will feel it, and not just in one part of the body, in all. And if there is an inability to feel through the totality of self, allow that to be in the awareness that you are captive in one aspect of yourself outside of yourself. What is offered here always and ever will be felt fully when the self is within. It can be no other way. When you are internal, you are complete. When you are internal, you need nothing else. You don't need to be anywhere else. You don't need to receive anything else. You don't need to know anything else. You don't need the next best thing. You don't need the next best activation. You don't need to have the next channeling. You just exist in the presence of now, complete and whole in your existence. Are you happy? with that? Are you whole and complete? Or are you planning your next offering? Are you planning the next words you're going to say? Are you planning the next event? Are you planning ahead of time? Ahead of time. Where is your focus? Where is your attention? Where is your awareness? Where are you consumed? If you are interested in deepening into your path of probation, which is where everyone begins, if you're interested in deepening into your path of probation and stepping into your path of adept initiation and moving into and receiving yourself and receiving the embodiment of ego, I invite you to join my group space for a month. Receiving activations, yes, but also receiving mentorship daily. Continuation of embodiment. It is going to ask all of you, though. Please understand, all of you is what you're not used to, though. It is donation based. There is a base donation that I request. If anyone is interested, I will put the information at the end of this in the description. I do believe I've got to go back and catch up on a few things on that too, but I will have the information available for you to reach out. Those that are here through Instagram or Facebook, you may reach out to me there. Let us open and activate all energy bodies. Opening all energy bodies. Opening. Opening the spine, releasing, opening the spine, releasing, opening the spine, releasing. And let us open now. Open and activate. Open and activate. Open and activate the Earth Star. Opening, opening the Earth Star. Opening, activating, opening and receiving. Opening and receiving. Opening and receiving through the Earth Star. Opening. Let us first open and clear and cleanse. Opening, clear and cleanse. Opening, clear and cleanse. Pulling everything down through the Earth Star. Pulling everything down through the Earth Star. Pulling down, clearing everything energetically, clearing all energetic debris. Makuri asandari imashete uru asuku ata imate esiki ata imak indik asiki matek esiki. Clearing, releasing through the heart, releasing through the solar plexus, releasing through the sacral, releasing through the root, opening and releasing through the Earth Star, releasing all energetic debris and all clutter, releasing, balancing, harmonizing, and neutralizing the molecular, releasing, balancing all ions. All ions are neutralizing. All ions are neutralizing. All ions are neutralizing. The ionic neutralization is just like grounding, except for more intense here, okay? This is necessary to receive the activated currents. And the attention and the ability for the voice that is spoken through the channel to be an activated current that creates the availability of this also comes from the space of embodiment. Anyone can say the words, but not everyone can direct from a space of clear and open truth. And I say that from a space of invitation. I invite everyone to step into that space. Everything that is expressed here is an open doorway of invitation. All you need to do is step through it. Flushing. You might feel some heat, flushing, 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 flushing and releasing, flushing and releasing, flushing, flushing, flushing. Flushing, flushing, flushing. Ya da 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 takim barada ruku atakim barada atakim barada ru atakim barada ru. Flushing, 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 releasing, flushing, releasing. There we go. Flushing and releasing. Now the magnetic currents are beginning to open and balance. The more magnetic you are, the higher the tone that you carry. Neutralizing and releasing your way through the earth star. And opening up through the soul star, opening, activating, 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 opening, receiving, 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 calling in and receiving, receiving, receiving electric magnetic currents, receiving electric magnetic currents. Receiving through the open and activated crown, receiving through the open and activated third eye, receiving through the open and activated throat, receiving through the open and activated higher heart and heart, receiving, activating, and balancing, balancing the currents, balancing, anchored into the heart, expanding, anchored into the heart, expanding, balancing. You're going to be feeling some pretty intense pulling and magnetism through your lower dantian as everything is coming down and releasing through the earth star. It's going to feel like intense magnetism or pulling, and just allowing that and releasing, and also simultaneously, so clearing, neutralizing, and receiving incoming currents to balance, expand, and heighten. Calling in crystalline compounds from the etheric, anchoring into the earth star, anchoring into the soul star, beginning orbit, connecting into the orbit, and enhancing and intensifying, as well as expanding. All stars have a rotation. And anchoring, expanding, and anchoring crystalline compounds into the auric, into the etheric, expanding, anchoring, expanding. There we go. Woo, feeling that. Now settling into this for just a moment, just taking a deep breath, settling into the currents. What I'm feeling right now, what is here now? What am I feeling right now for what is here for the body, the mind, the emotions, for all of it? Everything is offered in unity. It's not just focused on one or the other. There's definitely everything that is provided here is always going to provide an upgrade, but some balancing. Just really feeling there's some need for some electrical currents. I'm feeling that for a lot of people, there are some cutoff parts in the body, maybe the organs, maybe just based because of the projections, because people live so much outside of themselves, they don't live within. There is a cutoff. There is an inability to experience the currents. There is a world that is lived in, an illusionary world that is lived in, but is not fully felt internally. So what is provided here is not only an availability to enhance the experience, but it is an invitation to step into. Now, when we say going into the body or embodiment, this is bringing everything outside in. Your physical body is your densest, most present experience. It is the compilation of your mind. It is the compilation of your emotions. It is the compilation of your beliefs. Everything of your body exists because you create it to be. Everything in your reality exists because you have created it to be. The mastery point right now for those that are choosing is the mastery of the microcosm, the mastery of the body, the mastery of the density. This is what all ascended masters mastered. Okay. And so the ability to master comes from a state of internal presence and mirror. The mirror means you're receiving the mirror through another, not just through the self. It requires another. So receiving, transmitting the contract of the body. Another heat wave. Communicating with the molecules. Connecting into the microcosm. Opening and connecting into the 13th strand. Now we've heard of junk DNA. A lot of there's an awareness of having activated DNA. What does that mean? Your DNA, just like any other system of the body, is directly correlated to your perception. Everything that you embody and everything, the entire pathway of choice is embodied through the DNA. It is your library of spiritual inheritance. It is your library of wisdom. It is your libraries of frequency, your code of color, your badge of colors. It is what you harness and emit simultaneously with your projections. Many are still operating from the illusionary DNA, the illusionary gene code, the lesson groups, the karmic, closing out the karma, choosing differently is the invitation that is before you. And not just choosing differently, but perceiving differently. So calling in the contracts of perception. Anchoring. Now, this activation is not going to provide the perception for you, but it is going to allow an emitting of tone that will guide, that will guide. And calling forth electrical magnetic currents incoming from the soul star, activating from Pleiades, Arcturus. Arku, Ishikindari, Arku, Atikimbarara, Arku, Asikimbarara, 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 Arku, Ashaku. Indarara isikimbarara arku, asikimbarara arku, asikimbarara arku, asikimbarara arku. Indarara ashikimbarara arku, ashikimbarara arku, ashiku, ashiku, arku, ashiku. So just anchoring into these currents. Expanding and now, what is here for us to view in this connection? I'm feeling that for everyone in the collective, there is a lot that is being held on to in the rib cage, in the hips, in the lower dantian, and it's, or I say the rib cage area. It doesn't necessarily have to be the rib cage, but it just really feels like everything was just stuck. It's just stuck in this area of the rib cage and lower. So I would invite you to tune into that. And see what is showing for you. What is showing in the area of the ribs. What is showing in the area of, keep hearing pancreas. What is showing in the pancreas? In the abdomen? What is showing? Yeah, there's a lot in the abdomen. Let us call it into the light, calling 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 in, calling in, calling into the light, calling into the light, calling into the light, all that is held in shadow, calling into the light, all that is held in shadow, calling into the light, calling into the light. Calling it into the light. Isikindara and isikimbarara arku asikimbarara arku asikimbarara arku asikimbarara arku asikimbarara arku. Calling it into the light. And opening, expanding from the heart, opening, expanding from the heart, expanding, 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 expanding and opening, expanding, clearing, 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 expanding, opening and clearing. Taray urk asik urk atik imbark urk asik 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 imbark urk urk. Calling it up, calling it up, calling it up, calling it up. Now allowing what is here to be viewed internally, whatever came through, whatever is being illuminated, whatever was called into the light. Maybe you heard a word, maybe you heard a few words, maybe you had a projected belief that showed up, maybe you had something in relation to a perceived illness or a disease, maybe it was a belief of something, a connection with someone, an attachment, whatever it is, allow it into the light. Maybe it was an idea. Allow it, allow it, allow it, because whatever this is keeping you captive. Having the fancy titles and knowing the fancy things, shall we say, the magical things cannot serve if the internal mastery and the mastery of the physical is not at work. And the mastery of the physical is the ability to perceive. What are you perceiving? What is being illuminated? And opening through the root, opening, illuminating, opening through the sacral, opening, illuminating, opening through the solar plexus, opening, illuminating, opening, activating root, opening, activating sacral, opening, activating solar plexus, opening, activating, illuminating, opening, activating heart, opening, activating heart, opening, activating, illuminating heart, opening, activating throat, opening, activating, illuminating throat, opening, activating, third eye, opening, activating, illuminating third eye, opening, activating crown, opening, activating crown, opening, activating, illuminating crown. And calling in electrical magnetic currents, calling in, calling up from the earth star, calling up the magnetic currents, calling up from the earth star, calling up to the root, calling up to the sacral, calling up from the solar plexus, calling up to the heart and expanding. And calling in from the soul star, calling in the electrical currents, calling in through the crown, calling into the third eye, calling into the throat, calling into the heart, and activating, expanding out from the heart, and anchoring, and calling in, calling up electrical currents through the earth star. Calling up through the root, calling up through the sacral, calling up through the solar plexus, calling up through the heart, expanding out. And calling down through the soul star, the magnetic currents, calling down to the crown, calling down to the third eye, calling down through the throat, calling down through the heart, and anchoring, expanding out, and beginning rotation. Calling in crystalline compounds, anchoring into each of the chakras, expanding, rotating. Opening, activating and expanding and opening. Opening, expanding. This allows in the electrical magnetic currents from Pleiades and from Arcturus. Right now, we are just simply allowing these frequencies to be used to assist in the system's upgrade and balancing. Balancing, acclimating. Balancing, acclimating, balancing, acclimating. And what is necessary? What is here for the collective in this moment? The awareness of closing the cycles. My loves, this is it. Closing out your cycles, closing out your choices. The ability to harness the currents, the ability to embody the grids is the ability to choose and perceive, not just choose differently, but to perceive differently. It's not just making a different choice. I could choose to speak to someone different today than I spoke to yesterday. That's not the power of the choice. It's the power of the choice coming from a space of perception, how I choose to perceive, how I choose to interact, and how I perceive when I interact. Where is that coming from? Allowing the self to honor and to harness. And I know that for many, this is not as alluring than someone showing up and saying, I will fix whatever has been projected onto you. I will cure the spell. I have something to fix you. I can heal you. That is more alluring because therefore there is no responsibility taken. But for those that are ready for the change, the evolution of the soul and the embodiment of the spirit, the depth of perception. And even just this experience here right now, the feeling of the electrical magnetic currents, that is powerful. It is beautiful. It is our connection not only to the divine, for we are divine, but our connection to the cosmos comes from the connection of the electric magnetic or the magnetic electric. And our perception is what allows us to harness the power and intensity of that. Opening, opening, opening the central channel and activating up through the nervous system, activating. Ikimbarada arku atik imbarada arku atik imbat arik marik there it comes and magnetizing the spinal column opening, expanding, and calling into the light, anything that is held, that is trapped, that is captive in the spinal column, calling into the light. And opening, expanding, releasing. Clearing the spinal column, clearing the nervous system, clearing the spinal column, clearing the nervous system, clearing the nervous system of any emotional debris, clearing the nervous system of any emotional debris, clearing. Clearing. And opening. Light into the joints, calling light into the joints. And density, calling in the molecular and activating molecular neutrality into the joints for flexibility, to allow for flexible crystallization, for the molecular crystals to be exchanging with frequencies of higher tone, making the joints more moldable and flexible. So releasing and clearing any energetic debris from the joints. Releasing. Releasing from each joint, releasing. Clearing the fluid around the joints, clearing the fluid around the joints. You. Clearing. Clearing. And now. Anchoring frequencies, calling in crystalline compounds to anchor into each of the joints, anchoring the higher tones. Anchoring. And expanding. Expanding. Now, activating magnetic currents. Activating, enhancing magnetic currents, calling up from the Earth star, enhancing magnetic currents, calling up from the Earth star, magnetic, increasing magnetic, increasing magnetic, increasing magnetic. Increasing magnetic currents, increasing, passing through the crystalline compounds, increasing magnetic currents, increasing magnetic currents up to the Earth star, calling in through the soul star, increasing and bringing in electrical currents, increasing, passing through, and connecting in with the magnetic currents, passing through the crystalline compounds, expanding, anchoring into the joints. Also active and expanding through the nervous system and the immune system. So active in the immune system and connected into the joints. And releasing once again, releasing any debris from the joints. Activating. Activating electrical magnetic currents of the immune system in relation to the joints, activating. Many people have a disentanglement or an aspect of self that is completely, all these separate aspects of self, these illusions, these projections, they separate us from ourselves. This is usually felt in our joints. And even if we called in all aspects of soul that were held captive through time and space, and even if it came in right now, and even if it was embodied, your ability to retain that depends on your perception and your understanding of what is being called in. And expanding, increasing, expanding. And now, opening and activating through the nucleus, opening and activating through the DNA, activating, opening, activating. Solar currents, opening, activating through the soul star, opening, activating through the sun star, opening, activating through the universal star, opening, activating through the cosmic star, opening, activating and calling in solar, calling in calling in rays of solar plasmic, calling in rays of solar plasmic. And calling in through the channel, opening, activating through the Earth star, calling in once again, increasing magnetic currents, matching the plasmic solar, anchoring into the heart, expanding out, matching, acclimating, matching and acclimating. Yeah, there's a lot being experienced through this. So this is our last wave. And just allowing the currents as they pass through, setting the intention. So straightening of the spine, straightening of the shoulders, straightening of the hips, straightening of the neck, straightening, harmonizing, balancing, and straightening of the spine, harmonizing, balancing, straightening of the shoulders, harmonizing, balancing, straightening of the hips, harmonizing, balancing all meridians of the spine, harmonizing, balancing all meridians of the muscles, harmonizing, balancing all meridians of the tendons and joints, harmonizing, balancing all meridians, harmonizing, balancing all meridians of the musculoskeletal, straightening the spine, optimizing, straightening the spine, straightening the back, releasing any pressure in the spinal discs, opening, releasing any pressure in the spinal discs, opening, straightening, balancing, harmonizing. So you should really be feeling this right now. It's opening, everything is straightening, everything is balancing, everything is harmonizing. Hips are harmonized and balanced, shoulders are harmonized and balanced, spine is harmonized, straight and balanced. Neck is harmonized, straight and balanced, setting the intention. All masculine, feminine meridians are harmonized and balanced. Straightening, releasing any pressure in the neck. Releasing all pressure in the spinal discs, releasing all pressure in the neck. Releasing, expanding, expanding. And there we go. Opening, releasing. Releasing the density of the molecular in the spinal. Releasing the density of the molecular in the spinal. Releasing, neutralizing. Releasing, neutralizing. So their spine just went straight. Hips, shoulders are straight. Symmetrical, harmonizing masculine and feminine lines for symmetry. Harmonizing masculine and feminine lines for symmetry. Harmonizing. The spine is straight. The spinal fluid is flowing. The spinal discs are open and active. They are active. Harmonizing symmetry between the masculine and feminine. There is symmetry, initiating symmetry between the masculine and feminine. Initiating symmetry, activating symmetry, activating symmetry between masculine and feminine. Activating symmetry and activating unification between masculine and feminine. For me, this is huge because I have asymmetry through a lot of my musculoskeletal. I have a curve in my spine. My hips are asymmetrical, my shoulders. I've been working towards this to just create harmony and symmetry. I've been actively creating symmetry, and I'm feeling it even more so now. just with my intention. So physically redesigning my body through my intention and my vibration, being in a higher consciousness, a state of layered consciousness to be able to actively shift. So this would be a application, just practicing application of mastery of the physical. Opening the vertebrae, opening, and correcting any spinal deficiencies, correcting any genetic deficiencies, correcting any musculoskeletal deficiencies, correcting, optimizing, and harnessing optimal intake of electrical magnetic currents, optimizing and clearing any genetic debris that is preventing optimal alignment in the body. So just gently moving the spine into its space, moving the spine. Moving the spine into its optimal space. Optimizing masculine, feminine. Optimizing. Optimizing physical hip space, optimizing. Hips are active in symmetry. Hips are active in symmetry. Masculine, feminine in alignment. The feet are in alignment. The hips are in alignment. The legs are in alignment. Shoulders, hips, neck, spine, all in alignment. The DNA retaining optimal alignment. The DNA retaining optimal alignment. The DNA actively retaining optimal alignment of musculoskeletal. Aligning. So everything is aligning right now. Your body is aligning to the currents. Your body is aligning to the symmetry, to the optimal state. This is being actively remembered in the DNA. So activating, anchoring, remembering, activating, anchoring into the DNA, activating, remembering. The genes are remembering, the cells are remembering optimal state, remembering optimal activated state, remembering, harnessing optimal activated electrical magnetic currents. Oh yeah, I can really feel that. So now that everything is open and activated, the currents are able to pass through, and stating the intention and placing intention that the body remains in a consistent state of active optimization and active symmetry. This is going to allow your body to receive the currents, the electrical magnetic currents consistently. Whew, I can definitely feel where my body was definitely not like it was out of symmetry, was out of alignment. And it might actually feel, it's going to feel comfortable, and then it might feel a little bit uncomfortable as your body is actively adapting to its state. So releasing any calcification of the joints, releasing any calcification of the joints, releasing any calcification, excess calcification of the bones. There we go. Releasing excess calcification from the body, releasing excess calcification from the body, releasing, neutralizing, releasing. That feels much better. Releasing excess calcification of the bones and the joints and the organs. Releasing excess calcifications of the bones, joints, and organs. Releasing and neutralizing through the Earth Star. Releasing and neutralizing through the Earth Star. Soul Star is actively receiving. Earth Star is actively receiving. Anchoring all into the Heart Star, expanding out and up, expanding out and down, expanding out and up, expanding out and down. And all is complete. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you for receiving. I can feel the necessity of this in my body. Man, definitely had some knots on that right side that are moving out. Yep, so very grateful for that. I do hope that this was able to assist anyone receiving in relation to your body. And also, I would like to make this, hang on. And I just want to call everything into the central channel, calling everything into the central channel. Everything is actively receiving through the central channel, everything actively receiving through the soul star, everything actively receiving through the earth star, receiving through the central channel, and expanding out from there. Yes. So thank you for receiving. I know, apologies for that. I know that this was a bit of a but I'm so grateful to those of you that do hang around and receive for both parts of activation. Everything that's being spoken into is active, is activating you. Every aspect of this is actively channeled. It is actively embodied, and it is actively aware. So therefore, you are receiving from a state of activation in every moment. So also placing here into the awareness that the body is, the cells are going to be actively and intentionally receiving in a state of balance and symmetry. The joints opening and actively releasing calcification. The joints are actively releasing calcification. The joints are also actively recalibrating to a state of fluidity, higher crystallization, which is higher mobility, no stuckness, no pain, no inflammation. And actively, I would like to call in and actively enhancing the magnetic charge of the blood, actively enhancing the magnetic charge of the blood, actively enhancing the electrical magnetic currents of the blood, actively enhancing, calling that in through the earth star, calling that in through the soul star. And just allowing that flow. There we go. Currents are passing through. Currents will be consistently passing through and coming hours just to optimize what was received, to that was activated. So just please be aware of your thoughts, be aware of your emotions to maintain the highest activated state. This doesn't mean you deny or push away anything. This means that you are just actively aware and you're accepting and you're loving your any aspect of you that's thinking what it's thinking. You're accepting unconditional acceptance. Whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, you are accepting. So just allowing. Allowing. Thank you. Thank you for receiving. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I do hope that this has served in activating. The DNA is activated. The DNA is also actively receiving the currents. The body is actively receiving the currents. All bodies are actively receiving the currents and actively balancing, neutralizing. Yep, balancing and neutralizing. I'm really feeling in this one that there is this is going to be a big one for us. Shifting the density of our biology, if you will, our musculoskeletal, as our body is quite dense, and set at the same time not. The bones are very porous. And so our ability to harness a different molecular density through the restructuring of the body, the restructuring of the microcosm. I'm definitely feeling there's a lot, there's so much on this right side that I am feeling on the masculine side. Yeah, just even as I'm speaking into it, as I'm aware of it, there's so much on this right side that has been carried by the collective. Yeah, there's so much that's opening and so much that is restructuring and releasing. Opening, opening. What is happening right here? Opening. What is happening? What is here? Plugging any gaps in the auric field. Plugging all gaps in the joints, plugging all leaks, plugging all leaks, plugging all leaks. Plugging, yeah, plugging all leaks in the auric field, anchoring, 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 calling in and anchoring crystalline compounds around each of the joints, calling in crystalline compounds around the shoulders, around the throat, around the hips, and around the feet, and closing all leaks to the auric field. Yep. Okay. Yeah, running through the arms and shoulders. Yep. I'm feeling it. I'm actually feeling it running through everything. There feels like there was definitely, yep, there it goes. And contract is complete. And expanding out from the heart space. There we go. So plugging all and just calling in and wrapping wrapping the field in white diamond light, wrapping the field in white diamond light, mirroring, receiving the activation, mirroring, receiving the activation. All crystalline compounds will remain consistently anchored and actively harnessing and keeping preventing for the next 24 hours, preventing any leaks from the field. So there we go. Now all is complete. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you might feel some continuous heat rising from the body. If it feels like your body is imbalanced at any time, if you feel more energy in one area or the other, please remember your activated awareness is what moves the energy. So actively co-create with the energy and move it. Use your awareness to guide it. This one is, of course, very much as all in the body. It is working to restructure and recalibrate where there was any misalignment of the musculoskeletal, while simultaneously recalibrating your molecular to be able to openly shift in and out of density. But that also requires, of course, a consistent active awareness through you as well. So thank you so much for receiving. I am so grateful to be here with each of every one of you always. I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. I will definitely go ahead and put in the description if anyone would like to reach out, if you're interested in joining my group space, at least for a month, just to try it out. There will be some acclimation time. It can be pretty intense, but that's a good thing, right? Most people are not used to receiving a lot. They're not used to receiving the fullness of their capacity. They're not used to receiving and perceiving and going into the depths of awareness, and they're also not used to being open in their expression. So what this group is about is being openly and expressive of self, even the ego, allowing the ego to be seen so that the ego can be mirrored and embodied. Along with that, we have activations, which of course are going to hold a greater capacity because of the contract in the group space. Those are at least once a week, plus I bring through more here on YouTube, but we have at least once a week. And of course, continual mentorship. It is donation based. I do humbly request at least a base donation of $111 simply because of the capacity of energy that is being exchanged throughout the month. So it is a month-long investment. So if anyone is interested, now, of course, you can donate any amount that you'd like. Many people ask, what is the range? I have people donating anywhere from 122 to 277. So anywhere in there that you feel comfortable, that is what is aligned. If you need to make payments, you can make payments. Just let me know. I would say though, if you can just do like 2 payments, that usually works out the best. If we start splitting them up too much throughout the month, it just, it becomes, I feel like, yeah, energetically, it just feels more solid when it's able to be into, because of the investment of energy that is being received. So if anyone is interested, if you're already connected with me on Instagram, you can message me on there. If you're connected with me on Facebook, you can message me on there. And I will also put my email in the description again. And I do my one-on-ones as well, but those are opening back up. I have a few that are already scheduled, but if you would like to schedule for the first week of next month, then you're more than welcome to. Now those are set at a price range of $155 to $211. So, and they're approximately 2 hours depending. So if anyone is interested, please let me know. And I also have my monthly activation for 11/11 coming up on 11/11, and that is $66. And that is a very powerful monthly energetic upgrade, DNA upgrade, activated codes. There's a lot that's received. For those of there, we had a pretty good crowd this last time. And again, the one from 1010 is still available for 66 for anyone. You can reach me at the same locations. If you would like to repurchase that before I delete it, I'm going to be deleting it within the next week. And that's $66. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so grateful to have had each of you joining, and thank you for receiving everything that is here. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next live. Until then, Adonai.